Good morning, everybody. This is Lorraine.
And Jennifer.
And don't click. Don't leave. We don't want you to go anywhere else this morning. We just want you to stay here and chat with us.
Pay attention to us.
Isn't that always what you want when you're on social media? When you're putting content out there, you want people to pay attention.
Yeah, that's marketing in general. You want people to pay attention, but everybody's in this little phase for a while here. It's been building for a while. It's just short, like less than 2 minutes, less than a minute, less than 10 seconds. Like, yeah, short form.
Short form content. And so the challenge with that is that short form content is great. I love short form, but you can't tell your whole story. So now you're like, well, but after they watch this short preview, they're going to click through to my website, right?
Depending on the platform, depending on the area, not so much. People consuming, they learn to scroll and continually consume content, and so they may or may not click through, and the chances are they're not.
They're not. And the algorithms are adding to that, where you're seeing, and particularly like on LinkedIn, when you put a link in your content, LinkedIn, the platform, when you put a link in your content, they're actually devaluing that content. It is less likely to be seen. And so it's really changing how I think about content and how I create content for a zero-click world.
Yeah, the platforms want to keep you on the platforms, arguably so that there's more space for ads and things like that. So it makes absolute sense that, they're moving towards that and the consumer as too. So it's just like a diverging, like coming that way. But people struggle with this sometimes on like, how can I do this? And obviously, video is very easy, or at least we think so because we've kind of been doing it for years.
Absolutely. And I think whether you're doing video or whether you're doing text, there are some simple things you can kind of keep in mind as you're putting your content together. Like, for example, and this is an old newspaper trick, put the punchline up front.
Yeah.
Get the key message in those first 3 seconds of the video, in the first image in a carousel, in that first paragraph, because LinkedIn now you see only about 2 lines and then there's all this stuff underneath and you want people to click more. They may, but you got to grab them with that right now. Boom. What is it that you're selling? Or telling me? But that punchline's got to be up front.
Whether that is in the text or in the actual video, because that's going to be engagement if they click and get more. And so you're going to start seeing that content more. And then in the video, you're going to get them to watch the video longer, and the platforms are going to reward you because people want your content. So yeah, that punchline there in the beginning is very important.
And so if you're taking a longer video and you're creating that snip, you really have to listen for the hook. You got to make sure that that first sentence grabs people.
I was going to say too, like, trying to keep concise, like 200 words or less, and you're trying to cover a subject from beginning to end in 200 words. You and I like to kind of pull it from long form video, which makes absolute sense for us. I'm not so much of this, like, let's just create a bunch of 200 word, like concise over and over without thinking of the longer plan.
No, I think you have to have the big content and pull, but then each piece of content, and this is where it's a challenge when you're pulling from long form, whether it's video or blog posts, that piece has to have what I call standalone value.
Yeah.
Every piece that you create, whether you're crafting it from scratch or whether you're editing out from a longer form, you got to think like a storyteller. You got to think about, where do you start? What's the middle? What's the end? And so each of these little 30-second bites has to be a whole little story in and of itself.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that storytelling mentality. Um, yeah, I mean, the other thing that I think about is just that, distributing it on several different platforms, reusing it.
Mhm.
So, you can use something on TikTok and then reuse it over on Reels and reuse it over on YouTube, and you can tweak it just a little bit for each different platform.
Absolutely. And the thing I like about scheduling tools is I can
Yeah.
take that reel and I can upload it to my scheduling tool, and then I can customize each of my different platforms. I also have different schedules.
Yeah.
So, and because on LinkedIn, I alternate between video and image and text and image, the schedule is different. And so, even if you're following me on multiple platforms, you're not going to bump into that same piece of content 3 times in one day.
Yeah, yeah, I think, at first, that might be the easiest route to kinda get yourself going, but after a while, you start building on it where you can kinda change it. Even, like, right now, like, having fun with different music types, TikTok and Reels, if you do some of your editing directly in their platform, you're going to have the availability of some of the tools that they have,
Mhm.
and they want you to use their tools, and you might even get more reach by using their tools or some sort of fun music. I did one this morning, and it was about, I want email marketing, and it was a fun video, but the video itself was about email marketing. I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
this works out."
Absolutely. Because they're trying to figure out how to transform that platform from just fun and games to real value for businesses and marketers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and just people in general, just using it, making it easy for them straight from the platform. So, how can you pull that together?
Absolutely. The other thing, and while we're on the subject of video, 85% of people watch Facebook videos without sound. 85% of people are scrolling through. And so, whether you do word for word captions, or the thing I really like on a lot of mine is just, one title and leave it there for a while. And it's just enough to know what the video's about. Some kind of captioning is absolutely essential in a zero-click world.
Oh, that's just like a no-brainer. You gotta do it. I saw, from Facebook Reels the other day that they were saying that people that are interested in Reels, 50% of them are then going through to a message and having a conversation with somebody, through Messenger. Yeah, and so, that's another 0 click, not making it back to the
Mhm,
website. Um, uh I have to reinforce though that you can't not put this type of content on your website as well.
mhm.
You gotta have it there as well. So it seems like, oh, well, I'll just get all this out here. Well, they have to have this like mothership to go back to
Absolutely.
understand.
Ab Absolutely, and that's where they're gonna find the whole series, all the pieces, the whole story.
Yeah.
You gotta close that, you've gotta close that loop, even if they're not gonna go very often.
So, yeah, here's a reason to also close that loop is thinking about Google search. So,
Mm,
a lot of searches are also becoming 0 click with SGE results, and so that's using the AI where it's already answering your question. And so if you have these short little snippets of information on the website where you can answer a question pretty quickly, then that's going to help you in those terms as
mhm.
well to come up in search results.
Absolutely, and so you need to be thinking about, as you're creating that content, where is it gonna live on your website? How are you gonna build those pages? And as you do, the meaningful titles and meta descriptions for those videos, the summary, the transcript of the conversations are going to become so much more important. And the fact that you shoot a video to answer the question, well, the title of the video maybe needs to be either the question, or in Jeopardy form, the question is an answer kind of thing. You need to get that into the title, because that's what Google is looking for. You need to have, the other reason you really need to have all of that content on your website is something I think that Google calls it's like the EAT. It's the experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness.
Yeah.
And those videos help build all of that.
Yep, yep. Gosh, so many places I could go with that. Like, if you're online and you're producing social media and you're an authoritative on that subject, it's not a direct ranking factor, but Google does look at,
Mhm.
that you have authority on the subject, and so they can cross-reference that, and it kinda gets into personal branding, but depending on, what kind of subject we're talking about there is value there.
Absolutely. Well, we can talk about this all day.
Oh, yeah.
I know that we said we're living in a zero-click world, but if you have questions, you need to click over to digitaltoolbox.club and schedule an hour with Jennifer or me.
Let's talk about how we can get your strategies going with zero click. All
Bye
right, take
now.
care.